This is the Mage's Tale level Crone's Lair. It's the fifth level of the game. The narrative summary is she has her own little special place. She has set up traps and puzzles to keep out bad raiders and goblins and such. Narratively, the player was not supposed to be here, but she is indisposed. She's in trouble, so she can't help you right now. So you have to wade through her puzzles and traps to get to her room, to get to the charm key that will help you get to the big bad. Um, this level's design flow mainly is to iterate on the previous puzzles we've done, and we introduce a couple new things. But mostly it's an evolution of other puzzles that we have used, just kicking up a notch. So right off the bat, we want to teach the player a new simple puzzle that actually gets used in this level. So we set up a simple little one pressure plate. It stops the player from going forward. We don't want the player to get stuck right in the beginning of the level too hard, so it's real simple. Just find the object and you're done. This room is kind of a little mini hub for the level. Uh, Up until now, the player pretty much had no real choices to do anything. Uh, so in this level, we give them three doors. One they can't go to; it's blocked off. And there's two crystal gold ghosted skulls that keep the player from going forward. Each side room has one of these skulls that you'll want to place on it. It's still a narrative experience, which is what we want, a linear experience, which we want, but we wanted to give them some sense of choice so they could go either left or right in the beginning of this level. This is one of the puzzles that we've actually already done before, but we do something a little differently. We have the orbs with the pedestals, but the orbs are missing. So you have to find the orbs, put them in their place, and then light them up with lightning. One of the things that we use multiple times is this crystal orb, so you can get a hint at certain things like footsteps going into this wall. There must be something behind there. Also, give like a warning to the player that there's something dangerous behind that wall, and more footprints letting them know that there's obviously something behind that wall. We didn't want to make this puzzle too difficult for still being early in the game, so you can put the orb in any pedestal. It doesn't have to be a specific order. As indicated by the skulls, there was danger behind that wall. Here we have another pressure plate, but we do something a little different. You got a cage over there, hidden height, keeping a crystal ball secure, so you got to find a way to keep this down. Pretty much any object in the game will hold this down. Just the player just needs to be aware and try to find an object. In hindsight, I should have made this two platforms, two pressure plates, and the player would have to find two objects to put it down. It would have been a better evolution of the pressure plate puzzle, which leads to the next room of the other door across the way, as you'll see soon. This puzzle, the reason this one exists is one, we like to do puzzles within puzzles. Two, we had a mechanic that got scrapped early on of a uh, hourglass of sand. So I took the mechanic of the actual twisting and applied it to these skulls. So if you carry this crystal ball with you, you get more hints on what you're supposed to do. So you see the skull, you see it's not the same way. Now it is. reveals the orb, but yet it's behind another cage. And this one is not a pressure plate, but you got to figure out what to do. We didn't want to frustrate the player to make it a bit too difficult. So the second part of this puzzle is pretty simple. You just get the ship, and this puzzle was really just a fun way to introduce. If you listen carefully, you can hear a sea shanty from the original Bard's Tale 2007, and I wanted to put this in just so I could have the song because it just was a fun game and a fun song. That's why it's a little overly simple, just because it was a fun thing to put in, and we didn't really want to frustrate the player. And then, like the orb puzzles before, once you place them, you just gotta hit them all with lightning. So that's one evolution of the orb puzzle. This is a heavy puzzle-based level, so I wanted to break it up with some combat, so it's not overly done with the puzzles. So at each skull you place in, you have a combat encounter. Creates a good pacing of not too much combat at once and not too much puzzles. Got hit. One thing we like to use a little bit of is the crystal ball. Originally, it was supposed to be an item that you would attach to your belt, but our belt got a bit cumbersome and overcrowded, so we ended up having it just be an object that you could find in the world. And a thing of this level is if you carry it around, there's a lot of little things you'll find that ordinarily you wouldn't. So, for example, this puzzle is an evolution of two things. One, anti-magic zones. Until now, we never had any that were moving. And also an evolution of the pressure plates. The Magic Mouths give. Originally, it was supposed to be spoken in Gaelic so you wouldn't actually know the obvious choices. Unfortunately, we never got that, so they explicitly tell you what you need, which actually ended up working out. As we found with VR is people were having trouble doing the simplest puzzles in the new experience of VR. So if the player doesn't bring a crystal ball with them, they're going to have to play around with the object here and find out which two pressure plates that they need to push at the same time to get the anti-magic to go away. But if the player brings a ball with them, as you can see, you get the runics, and you see which pressure plates coincide with each one. So we got here now. We got to throw a fireball, and since the new iteration of anti-magic is moving, you just got to time it just right. We wanted to add some skill base to the puzzle. This is why you're seeing all this movement of the objects. Most of our puzzles up until now weren't skill based, they were more of a thinking man's puzzle. So this area is an evolution of two puzzles. One, we had wanted to reuse the hammers from the first level, but make them a little bit more difficult and more involved, as well as the wall that we had in the third level, where you push a brick on a wall and it reveals another wall. Now, it's a simple evolution here. It's just we have this really dark area, not a lot of light going on, which is why I grabbed the torch. And if the player sees footprints, they go into a wall. Wind magic won't work on this, but if they have a light source, they'll notice that they've got some bricks poking out. Pressing in both will reveal the secret area. And you got the chest, but it's ghost, so you got to figure out how do you get the ghost to work off, but you can't just try to get in there. We got flame traps. Discovering this brick movable wall, it allows you to actually turn the flame trap off safely. Otherwise, you might take some damage trying to go through it. So the iteration of the hammer traps is very dense row of them. You can't walk. You could walk through, but you're going to take some damage. Unless you put all your points into health, you're most likely going to die if you try to go through this. So we have 2 chains and we have multiple flame traps. There's 2 indications here on which one is likely the safe one. One, the chain being in between the 2 looks safer than the one that's directly in front of a flame. And if you carry the torch with you, you can see that one chain looks charred and another chain looks brand new. So if you grab the wrong chain, it triggers the trap. Got enough lead time to get out of the way. This isn't about it being a punishing game. We just want the player to have fun and be more relaxed. Pull the right chain, it releases the other side of the hammers. And then as you can see, there's chains on the other side. Now with one hammer trap disabled, it's actually not too bad to get through. Just time it and you pop right through. Similar puzzle, just pull the right chain and you solve the hammer traps. It's a little evolution of the original one. Ooh. So once both sides are done, the player's allowed to go forward. Now this section, it might not look like it much, simple little hallway. It was actually my favorite part of designing this level. So I love putting secrets in games. So didn't want to have just a simple hallway. You'd look at it, it's like kind of looks like a sewer almost. There's nothing going on, looks like your everyday hallway. But if you pay attention, the observant player will notice flames in the skull's eyes. Either ice or wind will put out the eyes, which triggers a part of the secret. So if they keep looking around, they'll find the next one. Which reveals this nice little secret here. Now this is an iteration of the black spot. The black spot was first in the 3rd level and we had a single one. And we teach the player right there on the bat that fire can make it go away temporarily. If you place a torch on it, it goes away until that torch is brought back up. But we have anti-magic, so can't do anything with the black spots. So how do we get through them? Take the torch. Once it's lit, you can go in anti-magic. And we get rid of the black spot. But the cage is still there. Then we notice we got more. Need more torches. Conveniently in the room. Oh, I accidentally triggered it. You can trigger them as well to get them to go away. And once you trigger it, if you don't move and just don't try to follow the sounds, you won't be attacked by the ghost and you'll actually get away from it safely. That is one way to get rid of them, but it's very subtle and not really anyone discovered that because we never really taught the player. It was kind of a hidden little thing for them to find if they played multiple times. It's a nice little creepy feeling of a room with the ambience and the black spots. And there's your reward. And short little pacing here with the hallway, and if they get the secret, break it up once again with combat. This is another area I really liked designing. Once again, it's really secret. Player gets in here, it's like, oh, it's a dead end, but there's a nice little collectible they can get. So that must be everything I have. They go away unless they notice in the dark that this is a wall that you can break with wind. So this room is pretty secret in the fact that it's hidden and the puzzle that's within it. There are two puzzles in here. They're same puzzles, but it's set up to hopefully trick the player into thinking that I found the reward, so I must be done. So if they turn one bust, it's like, oh, hey, hidden room. I must have found the secret. I get the reward and I'm done. But once again, if they're observant, they open up two secrets. So this puzzle in here is another evolution of the simple puzzle we have of putting objects in ghostly sockets. The difference here is you get the same kind of clues. You get footprints going to specific places. You got a handprint to show you stuff, but you get to the area and you see the footprints end here, but there's nothing. But the objects in this room are invisible. So it's a simple little evolution of one of our puzzles. Same thing, you come over here, I don't see anything. See a hand and footprint, there's the skull. It's really good to find this secret because polymorph is really fun. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have hid polymorph behind too many secrets since it's a really fun ingredient to have. Now, this puzzle originally was actually designed by Clayton Hogston. Originally, I had working on a puzzle in here. I just never really liked it. I had it involved with the horn using sound. It just never really felt that good. So I had a little powwow one day with the designers and asking them if, they had any puzzles that they liked, but they couldn't fit into their level, or if they had any new ideas. And Clayton had this one, and I really liked it. So what it is just some candlesticks. Same with the crystal ball. You look around and you find the tag of a rune, and you look for its right match. You don't have to throw it on the pedestals. I just have fun doing that, but you can simply place them up there. So once they're all set, nothing happens, but they're candles. So what do you usually do with a candle? And you get your little reward. Here is another choice for the player. They go off to the right, they end up into one of the last areas of the level. They see the treasure chest, they might want it. Got to figure out how do they get by this. So here is another iteration. Oh, I'll wait. So originally, I had this gap, didn't know what I want to do with it. We already did the falling bridge gag in the second level of the game. Uh, just like the puzzle before, I was drawing a blank, really didn't know what I wanted to do. So in that same little powwow we had, same question, asking the designers what their thoughts were. And Andrew Clayton had this idea about using water and ice from a previous level that ended up getting cut. So what we do is we fill it up with water and then use the ice to make pedestals that go across. It was a great idea from Andrew, and he made the blueprint, and it worked great. Since we needed a way to make the water rise, because I didn't want it just to sit there, did another evolution type of gag with the crystal ball. So we know that they like lightning, so we hit it with lightning. We get it powered up, gets the crank moving. Start the water. So the player won't know this, but they can take that with them, and they'll want to. But I'll show you what a typical player's encounter will be like. So you get here, we got another anti-magic. It's not really an evolution on the anti-magic, it's more of just a mechanism to stop the player from having magic in that zone over there. So there's a gap, they got to figure out how to get across. Obviously not going to do the water again, but we definitely wanted it to be magic based. So we had a pose of these creatures which with their hands out, which was a mechanism we originally had for the last room of the game. Didn't really work out in that situation, so I repurposed it for this room. So it's supposed to indicate a push, so what do we have as a push is the wind. Player pushes it, extends the bridge, and now they have a way across. So they go across, they discover two breakable walls, but they can't break them because you can't use magic and anti-magic. So there's two things they can do. If they're observant and they look around, they'll find a pickaxe. So they find a pickaxe. And they find a way. Also, we get rid of the pickaxe once it's used. So they can't open up that wall. So if they go around breaking barrels like everyone loves to do, they will discover a goblin grenade. So you can't light it over there, so you gotta move as fast as you can and get away so you don't blow up. So the player discovers that oh no, I need the crystal ball. They may not want to go through that whole ice platform again. They can simply come here, get their reward. This is also a way, the reason there's two ways is in case someone couldn't figure out what they needed, didn't realize that they were supposed to grab the crystal ball, but discovered this way around, then they get through. So they have multiple ways to get through this area and not get stuck. But if they want to, can easily quickly go this way instead of having to use the ice again, in case they want to be a completionist. Same thing, something we already know about orbs, they want lightning. Powers the switch and opens up the way. Now this room was originally intended for the giant fight. This centerpiece wasn't here, so you had much more room to move around and fight. I go into detail elsewhere about what happened and all that. I'll save that for later. So what we do here is we have these giant statues you need to turn, and they have to be turned in a specific order, but we give 2 hints to what you need to, which one you need to turn. You got a heart beating, you got the sound, you got the visual, and you got the glowing eyes. Originally, once you put him in place, we had him going up, and then you would do a combat, and then go to the next one, do a combat, go to the next one, do a combat, and so on. And it was really tedious. It was not fun. So I changed it to where you do all, then they come up, and then you just have one grand combat. Flowed a lot better, worked a lot better, and then in the end turned out to be a really nice fight. So it can be quite challenging too. Sometimes I could possibly die in the fight. We also obviously blocked the player's path. We wanted it to be a little bit more interesting than just opening the door once the fight is done. So these pedestals come up after you do all the statues, and just simple little hand cranks, and you'll open the door. Another thing I like to do is, like I said earlier, secrets. Takes too long to go into, but basically, if you gather all the health potions in the level and throw them in here before you start the fight, you'll get a Roman candle little object that actually shoots fireballs that you can use in the fight. It's not very effective. It's just a silly little thing to add. That's another little hidden secret. Like I said, we didn't want the player just to walk right through. We wanted to give them a little downtime to rest after the fight. For new players, it's an intensive fight. It gives a little bit of pacing. And one of our longest in-game cutscenes. This is the last room of the level. It's her, like she said, it's her lair. You got to find the key. It's hidden, so none of the bad guys can find it. The see player looks around, doesn't see much, and then notice the buttons here. Now the player, it's not complicated. It's just 4 buttons, so they can brute force it after trial and error, find out the combinations. If they are struggling, or if they want to try and see if there is a hidden combo, there is. So you can kind of see something behind this bookcase, but you don't know how to open it. It doesn't look like there's any levers. Once again, the observant player will notice a ghost blockout of a book. So search around the area. Eventually, player will find the book. And now you get the combo. Reveals a crystal ball. So the fact that it's a crystal ball, you can completely skip that puzzle if you brought a crystal ball with you and just go straight looking around for the key that you're supposed to be looking for. So you can completely avoid that puzzle. As you can see, the hidden key. And that's the end of the Mage tale, the Crone's Lair.